Welcome everyone, sorry for a small technical delay, but got that all sorted out here. We're ready for the next round of the WDCR SCCA Virtual Racing League, the next race of their GT4 and TCR season at Oulton Park. My name is Finny Kuna here with Tom O'Gorman. Tom, looking forward to today's race.
Yeah, very excited. And this one is going to be one of the most challenging of the season. I think this round in particular has become a little bit notorious this week in practice, and I'm very excited to see what shape that takes. As you mentioned, round 6 of 9 for this winter 2020 racing season for the WDCR SCCA Virtual Racing League. GT4s and TCRs as always. We're watching TCR qualifying, and we are at a very tight and confined Oulton Park Raceway.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think tight's a bit of an understatement. This track in most places is very much single lane, especially see here through the Britain chicane, what we're using. You can see also we got a straight run down. I forgot the name of this corner exactly at the end of this straightaway, but it's a very dangerous corner now. These guys can take it at high speed, avoiding the hislop chicane that comes right before. So, and you can see as you work through the back of the course, especially, the track tightens up quite a bit. So it's going to be a very technical track for these guys to tackle. They're going to have to watch their corners, especially because there's grass on all sides and very easy to hit them.
Yeah, we're watching the current TCR provisional pole sitter. That's Jack Chrissy up at the top in his Audi TCR, and one of the contenders that has been in the hunt at every single round so far this season. But it's the driver that currently does not yet have a lap yet in qualifying, Elias Roman, who's kind of been the quality of the field. We're taking a ride along with him coming onto the front straightaway, and you can just see how narrow this place is. Again, we're multi-class racing, and that's going to be exciting tonight.
Yeah, that's going to be the big factor, too. I mean, we are only going to have 40 minutes as opposed to the 90-minute endurance race we had last week at Sebring, so it is going to be a lot shorter, but there definitely should be more than enough time for these guys to lap the TCR field at least once, and so that's definitely going to be a very big factor. As we see Elias Roman, you can see he's gone to the top of the board in TCR, and his 99 machine was a little bit frustrated after the run last week at Sebring. He had a shot of winning, didn't quite come to fruition, but looking like he can get a solid win today if he can hold on, and especially just keep it. I think really the big thing for a lot of these guys is going to be keeping these cars on the track.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And looking back to last week, round 5 of 9 for the season was a 90-minute endurance race at Sebring. Definitely worth a watch for multiple reasons. The Gt4 Battle in particular, right at the front between DJ Alessandrini and Ken Hausiel, with Hausiel defending one of the most spectacular drives for over an hour that I've seen in a long time. But Elias Roman, as you mentioned, had some frustrations towards the end of that race, and actually David Alessi, who's the orange TCR card just in front of him on the screen now, was assessed a penalty for avoidable contact in the closing laps of that race, which was the source of Elias's frustration, jumping that fast right-hander at the end of the back straight now. So those two, they've absolutely been nose to tail multiple times this season. Alessi admitted fault, was pretty gracious in that, but I think Roman is coming back for trying to reestablish himself as the TCR car to beat this week after one of his worst runs to date, only finishing 3rd last week on the track at Sebring, ultimately getting promoted up to 2nd post-race.
Yeah, looking at David Alessi coming across the line now, it's going to be a 139.4 for Alessi. It's going to put him up into 2nd place. He's talked about these guys being close, so that's nothing more closer than 1st and 2nd, sharing the front row at the moment. Jack Chrissy, he's only 25 thousandths of a second in behind David Alessi here, and I think they got just about another minute or so for their qualifying runs before the GT4 drivers get out on the track.
A new driver this week in the 46, Ryan Christoph, joining us for the first time this season. Pretty sure he hasn't been with us yet this season, but he's always fast, and especially in the race paces with this TCR car, has done a really good job in specifically the Rodenzo Sports Car Challenge last year when we raced similar races. Wasn't necessarily the guy to beat in qualifying, but always raced really well. So he's currently sitting 4th. That'll be a lot of fun to watch. Will Robbins sits 5th, and he's been finding his footing more and more. He's the teal TCR car just up the road. And there's that curb hop. These cars are going to be this track. I love this track because it's so dynamic. There's so much finesse and kind of fine line involved, but it's also just completely unforgiving. So you have to be really ballsy and you have to be really precise, and that combo is so hard to mix.
Yeah, and this is definitely a very old school circuit in the way it's laid out, and they did some minor alterations to modernize the track and keep it up to certain safety regulations. But a lot of the track still drives very old school like, and it gives it such unique character in some of these corners. What really makes this so difficult, this track so difficult, because it's tight like an older circuit, drives like an older circuit, so it's very technical in a lot of places. Not a whole lot of runoff, not a whole lot of room for being able to get side by side with one another like a lot of modern circuits do. They give you that runoff because they know guys are going to be going side by side. Here, no, you got instead a bunch of painted stones on the inside for curbing, and these guys are going to be going flying over there side by side potentially through some of these corners. So really looking forward, especially in TCR. Didn't see a whole lot of their battles besides Elias Roman and David Alessi. They had a pretty close battle. They got spread out. Interested in seeing if it's a much tighter fight in their class, potentially for the win, with a lot of fast guys up near the front.
Yeah, I think that we're going to see that unfold for sure. And the top 6 right now in qualifying are separated by about 0.6 of a second from Jack Chrissy, who just took pole back from Elias Roman. And then you got Roman, Alessi, Christoph Nichols, and Will Robbins, all again within that 0.6 range right now. GT4 cars staging up for qualifying. They're going to have the finals 12.5 minutes to themselves on the track. And that's always been the bigger field between the two. But these TCR cars, I think with the tighter confinements of Oulton Park, we're going to see a tighter battle. And these GT4 and TCR mixture is pretty much the fastest cars that race here at Oulton Park anymore. They don't race much faster stuff here anymore because of just how small the place has gotten and how fast cars are these days.
Yeah, and it really is gonna it said that they modernized a little bit, not enough to put faster machinery. But we'll take this time while we wait for the GT4 field to get on the track. Let's actually go through a full walk around of Oulton Park. So heading through turn 1, very tight right-hander, may lead to some incidents on the opening lap. You got to watch out for that, especially starting in the middle of the field and heading down through turns 2 into turn 3. Another tight corner, this time to the left. A small little straightaway into the hairpin at the far end of the track, and that's gonna be very tricky for a lot of these drivers because you're turning into a braking zone, and that could lead to a lot of disaster if these guys are not careful. Then coming on through into the Britain chicane, which is the earlier chicane, which is turn 7, 8, and 9, and then through the final sweeping right-hander now for the rest of the lap.
Yeah, and it's that really fast right-hander that you got to kind of jump the inside and really thread the needle between the outside grass and the apex curbing. And then you get a little bit of a break once again before a really tricky kind of kink to the left, then a short braking zone and double apex right-hander. One more run, which is a great passing opportunity under the bridge down towards turn 16. The final corner onto the front straightaway always feels a little tighter than you want it to be. And that is a busy lap of Oulton Park Circuit.
Yeah, busy is definitely an understatement for these guys, as we got the GT4 field. They're out on track right now. So we'll take you live to them here as we get ready for the rest of this session. So curious to see who is going to be up on top on pole. I think most people are going to definitely have an eye on DJ Alessandrini, winner last week at Sebring. Although really looking at the timesheets, we just look at the final standings for that race, doesn't tell the whole tale, because Ken O'Seal and DJ are going absolutely at it for an hour pretty much throughout that race for the class lead. It was Ken trying to hold up DJ did so up until the last 15 minutes or so. That was only when DJ was just able to get ahead and was able to break away. But interesting to see, and this is what I wanted to ask you too. We saw last week the Porsche coming into its own in certain parts of the circuit, and then the BMW really on the back part of the circuit, second half, was really able to stretch its legs and come back at the Porsches. How is it going to be at a significantly tighter and much more narrow circuit like Oulton Park between both these cars?
Well, if you listen to the hearsay coming into this event, the Porsche really is considered to be the better car at this track, but it's really, really hard. Just the way the Porsche drives is very on edge. There's not a lot of room for error. There's not much of a window for things like slip angle, using curbs, and the Porsche needs that, but this track, just because of how tight it is and because of certain sections where you have to use some curb, you have to kind of push the car, it's very, very tricky. So the Porsche, I think, is probably the faster car, but definitely the less consistent car. Shifting over to the BMW, which tends to be a little bit faster in a straight line, a little bit faster in some of the faster flowing or kind of mid-speed flowing sections, is not necessarily as fast here at Oulton Park, but I think the window is wider. And what'll be really interesting, the final point between these two is this place is so narrow. Passing is at a premium, and we saw last week with Ken Hausiel, the BMWs are hard enough to pass when you're on an airport runway like Sebring. Now we're basically on country roads, and these BMWs being led right now currently by Thomas Layton and Jonathan White. Those two were quickest for BMWs in practice, actually sitting second and third overall in practice. They're going to be really, really tough to pass here. Whereas last week at Sebring, it took them a while, but DJ finally found a way by. It's going to be a lot harder here.
Yeah, and also of note too, I went to Ken Hausiel expecting him to be back in a BMW. Actually switched over to Porsche for this week, so I thought that was an interesting note there. So we got Thomas Layton now currently right in behind DJ Alessandrini, following him on for his Q lap. And curious to see again now as these guys finish their first laps here to see which make is going to come out on top.
GT4 cars typically taking 3 or 4 laps before they finally show what ultimate pace they have, so it's going to be shuffling around for the first 7-8 minutes that they're on track. But looking back to practice, Ken Hausiel was quickest in his number 23 Porsche. Thomas Layton, Jonathan White, both running those yellow and blue Turner BMW liveries, were second and third. Then Alessandrini was fourth. Those 4 all spread by just over a tenth of a second, though. Alex Larose in another Porsche was fifth. Andrew Pallotta shifting this week to a Porsche in the 96 car. He was in the 6th spot in practice, and Chris Lapras was the 3rd fastest BMW, sitting 7th overall. Now, again, those were practice times. They had a lot of time to find that. Now they've only got about 10 minutes of usable track time to put their fastest laps down, so I think that's really when crunch time starts to show what the drivers actually have.
Yeah, notably DJ with only the 4th fastest lap time, again qualifying just starting, but of note, Ken Hausiel, Layton, and Jonathan White will put faster times down, and Jonathan White ran into some trouble at Sebring, so I think he's looking to try to rebound from that after what was looking to be a pretty fast car. If I'm not mistaken, also qualified in the top 3 there? If not, he's definitely near the front of the field.
Yeah, both Layton and White were in the top 5 in qualifying, and both, I think, caught out in an early incident, turn 1, which we were so stoked because we had a 90-minute race with some strategy involved. We might have seen some pit stops, and then it immediately started with a full course caution, which made it a no-stop race. So we're basically had a 90-minute sprint race on our hands. We're back to a 40-minute format tonight. So I think one of my biggest storylines is you see the 22 using every bit of track and more. Something we didn't mention is this series uses a 25-point incident limit in iRacing service. So every time you drop a tire outside of track limits, you earn a point. And over 40 minutes, with how tight Oulton Park is, that's not something you can just ignore. You're going to have to worry about those, and that's something that we've seen drivers use to their advantage and use at key points. Looking at you, DJ, and other points, we've seen it end in a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, and that's why you got to be very careful. Again, we mentioned about how tight the circuit is. Not a whole lot around. I mean, even Sebring was tight for that matter, but there's still a lot of track to work with, despite having grass on either sides in multiple sections. But here, again, as we mentioned, only really a single lane throughout most of these corners, and you can maybe fit 2 cars. 3 is really stretching it at certain points of the lap. So you're definitely going to want to be careful of the track limits. You see DJ, as we're joking about him, dropping a wheel just there, but those definitely add up. In 40 minutes, again, that's that's quite a good decent amount of time to collect 25 incidents if you're not careful, especially if you add a few car contacts in here and there.
Yeah, it's a great point. The car contacts, anytime you have body contact with another car, it's usually 4 points. So it's way worse to have contact with people, and that's something that is going to be really key to keep an eye on for us tonight, is when they're dealing with traffic, not only traffic in class, but traffic between the classes once we put TCR back on the track with them. Taking a ride with Andrew Pallotta, who sits 6th. And he has switched to the Porsche for the first time this season. Missed last week's race, but is back. He was a BMW stalwart for the first 4 rounds, and now decided to play the lemming game potentially, or just liked the way it handled better on Oulton Park, and the 96 is a Porsche this week.
Can you imagine if teams actually had the money to just constantly switch back between manufacturers like that?
There are a couple. Team, but the title sponsor of Laguna Seca is a little guilty of that. But
yeah, I forgot about them. Yeah, that is true.
Look at Pallotta, though, goes up to P2, and now it's a Porsche top 3 lockout. Chris Lapras in the 7 car is the fastest BMW. Layton and White are all in the hunt as well, but the gap's still within a half second across the top 6 or so. Alex Larose in the 26 car, he's in a Cayman and was not necessarily feeling it this week. He's struggling with Oulton Park, expressing some frustration in practice nights earlier this week. So he's been one of the drivers that has a really, really, poor starting record. He tends to find himself in the wrong place at the wrong time at the starts of these races, but is always one of the fastest cars towards the end of the races. He jumps up to fourth.
I was going to say, looking a little bit quicker in the later parts of qualifying, up into fourth place, as you mentioned. So we'll see if you can try to improve that just a little bit more. Maybe move, if you can find a few tenths, you can put them up 2, 3, maybe even up on pole. So we'll see if you can find those few tenths of a second here. As qualifying starting to wind on down. And even for Leighton, dude, 11 thousandths of a second back from the next guy up. That's Christopher Lapras, who he's trying to beat and get himself into fifth place. And the starting grid, we'll see here, he's working through the back half of the course. There's DJ Alessandrini again, right in front in his teal and black and also orange livery Porsche, as Leighton working through the final few corners as well. And I think talking about some of the corners around here too, what do you think are going to be the trickiest corners or the biggest trouble spots for a lot of these drivers around this place?
Well, definitely, if we're talking about just the challenges that the corner presents, there's one right there, tracking wide out of turn 1. That's a point where you can get an incident point really quickly, but you can also get a run on somebody down towards turn 3. Another great passing opportunity is getting a good run through the Hislop chicane onto that back straightaway and just getting a good run down. There's a look at that chicane. If you can kind of back yourself up and get a good run out down before this fast right-hander. And then finally, the last corner, you get a little bit of a breather coming into that last corner. It's kind of bumpy on the way in. It's a little bit awkward, but it's a great passing opportunity. But I do think today is going to be almost reminiscent of what we saw back at Donington in round 2, where it turned into what felt like Lime Rock. It was just a bull ring, and whoever survived won. I really think we're going to end up with another one of those, which is a ton of fun to watch. So keep watching.
Yeah, definitely keep watching, especially as qualifying is just about to come to a close, and we'll line our grid up of almost 25, 26 cars here, and we'll get rolling for a 40-minute sprint race. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be nothing good, especially considering they treated last week like an hour or 90-minute sprint race. And Jonathan White working through the back half of the career. You can see working through those final corners. I got to say, probably some of my worst corners around this track. I can never seem to get the run out of there quite right. It's a lot narrow on exit than many people think. For White, he goes up into 6th place at the moment. It's as high as he's going to be. We'll see if he can try to find something and move himself even further up. But Ken O'Seal, also a lot of guys trading spots near the top of the order. Now O'Seal actually working through the back half of the course as well. See if he can make an even faster time in trying to keep DJ out of that pole position.
Yeah, Alessandrini not even on the front row right now, as Andrew Pilata has also improved. Alessandrini with no improvement on his previous lap time through. O'Seal's about to finish another flyer, and at this point the tires are probably either just inside or starting to leave their sweet spot, so we may not see much improvement. O'Seal up by 1.5 tenths over that white Porsche right there with Pilata at the wheel. Alessandrini 3rd, and then our top BMW is the number 11 of Tom Layton, who sits 4th. And I really think if Layton can get a good start, that BMW is going to be really tough to pass around here.
Yeah, let's see. It is a big car, not as big as its cousin, the M8, but still a pretty big machine, especially in comparison to the Cayman, which is a lot more sleek and lower to the ground.
The M8's just the entire width of the track. Park, I think. But this might be good for Layton. He's got a little bit of a sniff of a draft off of the back of Andrew Pilata, and Pilata is one of the fastest cars on the track. So if he's got any amount of pull from the back of that Cayman, this could be a pretty strong lap. Just look at the dirt flying from these cars. That's something we haven't seen all season, is kicking up dirt corner by corner by corner. Pilata lets Layton through. Is he going to be able to capitalize on this one?
We'll see here, working through the penultimate corner here. Very tight right. You got to watch that hill on the left. Very easy to dip a wheel on there. And then I guess, I'm not sure if this is actually considered the final corner or not over what was the previous. But nonetheless, as Layton works his way across the line, 136.4, about almost half a second slower than his fastest time. So wasn't able to improve. He's got one more attempt here with just about a minute left in qualifying. Ooh, and gets some grass as well. He's going to go sideways, and nope, that's going to end any attempt of improving his order. So he's going to have to settle for 4th or worse, depending if the rest of the grid goes faster. And considering how tight it is, that's very much a possibility. Looking at Alex Larose sitting directly behind by a few thousandths of a second. We'll see if he can maybe try to put himself further. He's been looking pretty fast, improving his time slowly but surely.
Yeah, another driver that actually wrecked it a couple laps ago and reset is the 7 of Christopher Lapras. He sits 7th, but he just started a final flyer, and the BMW is probably in a pretty good spot right now tire-wise, having reset maybe 4 minutes ago. So he's got a decent opportunity. Looking a little further behind him, Richard Spicer is back, got a great run at Sebring, a lot of good battling in another BMW. Francois Brew and Chad Griffith rounding out the top 10. It's interesting to see the GT4 field is almost halved in size since the beginning of this season, but the TCR field has grown throughout this entire season. So we're down to only about 25, 26 cars total in the field instead of over 40, but the TCR field, strong as always. GT4 is cutting down on those numbers a bit. Whoa, huge jump for Halcyon.
Yeah, and DJ Alstrin just cutting to him, and he's giving up his attempt of a lap. So Ken Halcyon looking to just kind of improve his current lap at the moment. Pelota and DJ have called it a day, or call it a session, I should say, for qualifying here as we're wrapping up. Halcyon trying to finish his lap. This is really just to try to see if he can improve his already fast time of a 1:35.6 is the time he's got to beat if he wants to just secure that pole by just a little bit more. Don't think anyone else is going to catch him from behind, but as he comes up and over the hill, nope, he's going to go straight into the pits. That's a bit anticlimactic there.
Calls it a day. Lapras came through a minute ago, was no improvement either. So it looks like things are going to stand, and it's a front row lockout for Porsches. Once again, Ken Hausil and Andrew Pallotta, with both shifting to the Porsche this week, paid off for him.
Yeah, definitely see a reason why. Oh, you see Larose get sideways out of the final corner. Not sure that time was going to be any better, but it's going to end up in the tire wall for him. And I think that's more or less going to wrap up our qualifiers. I think Layton already finished his lap, if I'm not mistaken. He's towards the beginning of one, so I think he ended up finishing. So I think it's safe to say we're looking at more or less our starting order. And Ken Lucille will be the driver now, starting on pole. And looking back, Andrew Pallotta and then DJ Alcindrini, surprisingly, I guess, in third, which is still a very good qualifying effort. Do you think it's anything to be concerned of, potentially, for the race, considering Alcindrini and Pallotta could qualify in front of him? Do you think DJ might immediately take back his top position?
Yeah, I really do think that this is a problem for any drivers that are not on the front row, just because of how tight this track has been for the drivers in practice. One of them even said it's basically a roulette on the pit parties when everybody jumps out of the pits together and simulates a race. Who survives is who wins. So I think Hausil and Pallotta, whoever leads into turn one, is really doing themselves a huge favor. And then we get back to TCR, and TCR cars are closer on pace than typical for the two classes. Jack Chrissy taking the pole there over Elias Roman, David Alessi third, and Christoph fourth. So the TCRs will probably have a relatively peaceful first, maybe 2/3, 3/4 of this race, but eventually they're going to have to deal with those GT4 cars, and specifically here at Oulton Park. That's tricky.
Indeed it is. And also of note too, the TCR field top four within 0.2 of a second, which is really, really close for these guys. So looking forward, especially the top, it was separated only by thousandths of a second between pole and second place in TCR. But for now, we'll cut down to the grid here as we get ready for our pace lap. Trying to see if we can find where the drivers are on track. I have absolutely no clue where they line up.
Looks like they're lining up between the second to last and last corners, which is a very oh no, they get a couple more corners, so they're lined up just before the double right-hander, before the long run down to the final corner, so they get maybe the last quarter of the lap to get the tires warm, which is not a long time.
Yeah, indeed, and we'll start going through our grid. Ken Alcindrini starting in first, next to him Andrew Pallotta in second, DJ Alcindrini will be lining up in third, and then the first BMW, Jonathan White, lined up in the 22 in fourth.
Another BMW, the 11 of Tom Layton, starts fifth, and Alex Larose and his Porsche will start sixth. Behind them, Christopher Lapras and the 7 BMW will start 7th appropriately, and Richard Spicer and another BMW will start 8th.
And moving on back into 9th place for row number 5 is going to be Francois Brew starting in the 69 car, and then next to him Chad Griffith in the 10th car in 10th place. Back in 11th place you find David Thompson in the 51, Chris Spiller next to him in 12th in the 980. And
then rounding out the GT4 field, Don Manning, Mackenzie Kaufman, and Kevin Zhu, with Kaufman and Zhu both not getting lap times in qualifying. Then it's the front row TCR. Jack Chrissy and Elias Roman will start 16th and 17th overall on the grid.
Yeah, and then Elias Roman, David Alessi, and then we got Ryan Christoph and Murphy Nichols. Is a bit offset with the way they line up on the grid, but more or less is going through our lineup. Will Robbins in 19th with Louis Alessi lined up in 20th. Moving on back to 21st, Darian Taggart in the 75, Dave Fitzgerald in the 22nd and the 91.
And then a couple of TCR cars not getting time. Scott Merker was the final qualifier, and then Bob Schumacher and Brian McRae. Schumacher appears to be on the track, and McRae does not. So I think Schumacher will bring up the rear. Split starts as always. GT4 cars getting a 10-second start before the TCRs get their green flag, and they're headed down towards the first corner. It is absolutely critical to lead into turn 1 here. Who gets it?
Yeah, we'll have to see here who is it going to be. If it's anyone in the front row or maybe even the second row back, we'll have to see after the first few corners. The pace car is in, and immediately we're going green here at Oulton Park.
Oh, it's a really early green flag. Alessandrini super racy gets alongside House Seal. This is critical. 3 wide into turn 1. Alessandrini backs out of it. House Seal leads the way, but he gets second, does Alessandrini. Larose, Pilata now slots in behind the charging BMW. Is that the 22 of white?
Indeed it is. He's trying to charge up into second place after taking third. It was a pretty poor start for Pilata as these guys work through the first few corners here. Going back to TCR, they're up and away here with Chrissy leading the field down into turn 1. Fairly orderly start for them with Elias Roman, David Alessi, Ryan Christoph, Murphy Nichols here at top 5 through. We'll cut back to GT4 here. Oh, as we see Pilata around in the hairpin. Looks like no one else got him. That was an amazing feat that no one got him as he tries to get back on the power. Almost goes flying in front of a white BMW. Not true that was, but Pilata struggling hard in the early going.
And that's just how knife edge these GT4 Caymans are on the first opening lap. Not a surprise, especially with how little experience he's had in the Cayman recently, driving the BMW a lot more, that caught him out. So that's going to mean House Seal, Alessandrini, and Jonathan White with the top BMW is at the front. Back in TCR, Jack Chrissy with a good getaway, and now David Alessi's got some pressure on Elias Roman into the Hislop chicane the first time. TCR cars, more important to get the rear tire pressures up before you can really attack. But everybody really a clean start for how frantic we expected that to be.
Yeah, especially considering Pilata having some trouble there. You can see the TCR actually kind of cut in half. The top 6 breaking away. That's Will Robbins ending it. Darren Taggart leading that second group of drivers. See Alessi catch a little bit of grass, but catching back up to the GT4 field, just finishing their first lap. It's Ken Seal, DJ Alessandrini, Jonathan White, Thomas Layton, and Christopher Lapras, your top 5 years. You've seen them all flying on through turn 1. Also, I think almost every single one dropping a wheel out.
Yeah, I calculated, I think we should see maybe 25 laps today, which means you get 1 incident point per lap if you're going to spread them out evenly. I think all 3 of our top drivers just got 1 each, but House Seal charging hard, got a half-second lead over Alessandrini, who's got another half a second or more back to Jonathan White, who's doing a good job to keep them in touch. Whoa, all the way tracking out dirt flying from the dirty surface. And White dropping a tire on the way in, but keeps it pointed the right way, and they're kind of breaking away from 4th, who is Layton in the Team Turner car. And then another break back to Lapras.
Yeah, and then we see Lapras also trying to catch back up. It looks like the BMW's, specifically Jonathan White, he's actually starting to lose a little bit of touch with Alessandrini and House Seal up in front, and it's looking to be a repeat of last week between those two up in the front 2 positions, this time with House Seal in a Porsche as well. So no real car difference is sorted out between these two. You see White really hauling, trying to catch those 2 up in front.
Back at TCR, they were side by side coming down into the hairpin for the first time, and actually Jack Chrissy went off track, almost went into the wall, but Elias Roman takes back over the lead over David Alessi. Murphy Nichols up to 3rd now, with Ryan Christoph getting bumped back to 4th where he started. All of these drivers, though, just gained a position, and now look at Murphy Nichols get the run.
Yeah, and through the British chicane, Alessi making a mistake, and there you see Murphy Nichols. He's trying to capitalize, and Nichols started back in 5th. He's all the way up now into 2nd class. Not yet, though, as Alessi fighting up the inside here through the right-hander. You got to be very careful in TCR tracking out, because it's a death sentence if you do. And also Ryan Christoph, you were saying to watch him earlier, he's now trying to fight for 3rd as he's going to be in the grass just a little bit.
Whoa, and that's going to be side by side with Will Robbins, who's now got around the outside of Christoph. Look at that move from the 35 car of Robbins up to 4th, and all of this exchanging from 2nd on back has gifted Elias Roman about 5 car lengths of a lead. Jack Chrissy's still in it. He's he's the leader of that next pack that is just behind these guys, but Robbins makes a mistake in the final corner. Christoph gets back by. This place is so tight, and TCR is back in TCR form, putting on a show.
Yeah, there's Jack Chrissy right there. You can see it dropped all the way back down. I want to see if we could try to get a replay of what happened to him. And actually, just as we went to do so, he actually just went off the track in turn 1. So he is really struggling right now. Now we'll try to take a chance to take a look at what on earth happened to him that cost him the lead of the race. So this is a look right here. This is heading down to the chicane as you mentioned earlier. And he was side by side with Elias Roman, and then, oh, might have just been too offline?
Yeah, it just came in a little too hot. They were side by side, perfectly executed by both of them, but the 6 car, Jack Chrissy, runs wide, barely avoids that tire wall, and is able to rejoin just in front of Darren Taggart, who gets real squirrely trying to check up. Fair game for the 6 car to rejoin like that, but now he's got some work to do.
Yeah, and definitely he's got work just trying to keep the traffic in behind him, let alone try to drive back up to the top position. We'll see. Definitely has the speed. You need to see that consistency out of Chrissy to see if he can hold that spot. The top 5 still very close together in TCR. Definitely going to have to keep an eye on them, as they're going to be looking like the close battle of the day. It's DJ trying to chase down Ken Seal, with Jonathan White slowly in behind them as well. Looking Alex Larose, he's chasing down Christopher Lapras for 5th place.
Jonathan White's doing a really good job to stay in touch with the leaders. He looks like he loses time on the first half of the lap, but gains it back on the second half of the lap, just on the quick kind of 50 feet check from the commentator's booth here. But then it's a breakaway for the top 3 for sure. Larose is looking pretty racy on the back of Christopher Lapras, but again, passing is at a premium here at Oulton Park, so it's going to take some creativity or maybe a mistake from Lapras to get that Porsche back by. Larose is really good at maintaining pace in the Porsche. It's often one of the fastest cars towards the end of the races, so I think that this race is not going to go anywhere between these two.
Yeah, and Larose just a few tenths faster last lap through. It's not much, but it's definitely something to work with. Also, DJ caught up a lot in the second part of the lap here. He's now looking like he's on the attack for Ken Seal here, and these guys within a tenth of each other.
This is a carbon copy of what we saw for over an hour last week at Sebring, although the lead car with Hausiel, the 23 on it's taken a little bit of a different shape with that shift from the BMW to the Porsche. Alessandrini shows the nose trying to fill the mirrors of Hausiel, but is absolutely nowhere near striking distance just yet. And I think right now we may see them try to sort this out before they start to catch TCR traffic, because once you insert multi-class racing here at Oulton Park, things get real rowdy.
Yeah, it's an awfully big object approaching in the mirror, and that is not Thomas Layton, it's Jonathan White in the 22 car. He caught up a lot. I mean, I'm not sure necessarily Ken's pushing the limit here. In fact, look at the lap times. Ken Seal, his fastest lap, or sorry, his last lap was a 136.3 to Jonathan White's 135.8, so 5 tenths faster for the BMW.
Wow, and that would have put him actually basically second on the grid in qualifying, so that matches his qualifying time. The BMW not as friendly to its tires, so he's basically in go time right now. He has to get something done because his car is going to fall off much harder than the Porsches do, and he'll start to lose touch if he doesn't make it happen now. I think right now is critical stages of the race for the 22 specifically, but the top 2 are also really close. Look at White chucking it through the hit slop chicane.
Yeah, I'm actually amazed at how late he almost looked like he was going to rear end DJ. That's how deep he dived into braking, but I guess the brakes or the way he has his car set up, he's really good in the braking zones in comparison to the Porsches up ahead of him.
And remembering last week to Sebring, Hausiel was able to defend from the Porsche of Alessandrini. Every time he attacked, the brakes on that BMW never let him down. Whoa, at the front, Alessandrini up on the tailpipes of the 23. Hausiel still running true to form. It really takes a mistake to get by here, but Alessandrini shows the nose. Hausiel protects down into the final corner.
Yeah, only protects for now, and I gotta say, Hausiel, he's got a bigger advantage being in the lead here compared to Sebring. Sebring had to deal with a lot of straightaways and a lot of heavy braking zones where DJ was able to, get a run and then get deep on the brakes to make a pass. Not so much here at Oulton Park. There's a few opportunities like that, but not as big of an advantage. Definitely the advantage goes to the leader here, but DJ definitely making Hausiel work for it here. He's all over the back, and as we saw right there through Druids in the back part of the lap, almost hit him. Speaking of almost hitting the car in front, White also getting very close to DJ.
Yeah, White's really fast through turn 3 there, that left-hander, and it's really critical to get the car up on the curbs and help it pull it through that corner. Back in TCR, the battle for the lead is hot as well. The 34 of David Alessi has got a lot of pressure on Elias Roman, and these two were nose to tail the entire race last week at Sebring. It didn't work out for Roman as Alessi got into him, and now this week it's more of the same.
Yeah, definitely looking to be much of the same, and you also see a separation back. Murphy Nichols, Ryan Kristoff, and Will Robbins have lost touch with the leading pack. You see Jack Chris, he's slowly approaching. He's able to break away from that other group of TCR cars. Darren Taggart, Scott Merker, and Louis Alessi all the way back here. So he's starting to go now in the right direction. Question is, can he try to get past more? Whoa! As I say that, does a bit of a drift through turn 3, going to nail some cones as well. I was going to say if he was able to catch the guys in front, not with a mistake like that.
No, I think that might have been the nail in the coffin. He had enough time. Whoa, Louis Alessi goes for a huge slide in the background too. But I think Jack Chrissy had 30 minutes to reel the leaders in. He was within the distance to do so. And that time, that big slide through turn 3 probably sealed the deal that he will maybe be able to catch the battle for third, but I don't think he's going to make it back to the leaders now.
Yeah, he's gonna have to let the leaders get into each other. I think it's gonna be his only hope of them doing so. And I mean, they had some contact last week at Sebring. I doubt they're probably gonna do it again. I think they sorted themselves out after Sebring between each other. But you never know. You never quite do know. As we go back up to the battle for GT4, and these guys still as close as ever. They got a little bit separated out. It was almost 0.7 of a second between Ken O'Seal and DJ Alessandrini. Looks like it's closed back up just a little bit. Let's take a look back at Leighton back in 4th place. Christopher Lapras 5th. Larose, he's dropped off a bit from Lapras, was hounding him for a few laps, and now is backed off. Richard Spicer also chasing him down in 7th place.
Yeah, I suspect maybe a mistake from Alex Larose dropped him off of the bumper there because he had plenty of pace. Richard Spicer's keeping him within sight as well. So I'm pretty surprised to see the field as strung out as it is. Taking a look a little further back in the field, I think this is Francois Brou chasing down David Thompson, entering that banked hairpin. Really helps you get through one of the slowest corners on the track. A couple of Caymans battling for 10th right now.
Yeah, they're just kind of working through here. Now they're working through into the Burton chicane. Back up near the front. These guys now, like an accordion, expanded back out. It's closing back in on itself. Now, if you're Jonathan White sitting back in this BMW, what do you want to do? Because I remember we were talking about, DJ trying to get past Hauseal before they get to the TCR traffic. What is White's plan? Is it the same, or maybe does he want to wait for the traffic considering he's got 2 cars to pass?
No, I think he needs to get by when they get to the traffic, or before they get to the traffic, because that BMW is going to fall off. It's probably already falling off, really, as that car is a little harder on its tires than the Porsches are. The Porsches relatively will stay pretty even throughout the race, and I think once they catch that TCR traffic, the BMW may be a little bit better at it. Oh, he's deep on the brakes, but I really think he's got to hope maybe these two go side by side and gets an opportunity to go by. I don't know that he's going to be able to create his own opportunity, though, because that car just doesn't seem fast enough in a couple of the key areas to get to the bumper in time.
Here's a close battle here now for 3rd place. Murphy Nichols getting a great run on Ryan Kristoff here. They're side by side heading into Druids. A little bit of grass as well, and sideways for multiple of these cars here heading through Druids still. And Nichols now got a bad run out of the corner. Here comes Ryan Kristoff back on the attack.
Over under for Kristoff, and he's going to get the inside line for the final corner, deep on the brakes, and watch the rear end of these cars just float through the apex. Kristoff barely keeps it on track, gets the power down, but picks the outside line for turn 1. Nichols is going to inherit the inside, still over-undering each other. Robbins is recovering, but Murphy Nichols probably going to turn in real early here, pinches off the entry, and Kristoff takes it back. He led last time across the line and leads again.
Let's take a look at that whole battle. I want to see that exchange from Will Robbins' point of view. He got a great look at that entire run here. Went a little bit too far, but I think this will mostly suffice here. So this is heading into the right-hander up the hill in the last part of the track. There you see Kristoff making a big mistake up here. That allowed Nichols to work his way on through, and then these guys are just side by side here. This is probably the tightest part of the track.
Yeah, you see how just claustrophobic this gets. Dragged tires on the way in, a huge frantic moment on the steering wheel. Murphy threw it in a little too hard. Kristoff goes for the over-under, and they finally now get it back. Look at the front really quick in GT4. We have a new leader, Jonathan White. Capitalizes on a mistake from Ken Hauseal and DJ Alessandrini, who went with him. Now the 22 is at the front.
How on earth did that happen? Let's see if we can get a quick look at that. We're looking at one replay now. Let's take a look at another. I think this happened down into turn 1. There you see White, Hauseal, and Alessandrini. However, White in 3rd place. Let's see what on earth happened here. Did DJ make too good of a move? Oh, ended up hitting the back of Hauseal, and they both sold themselves up. Wow. You're talking about White needing an opportunity? There it was right there.
Yeah, that's a nightmare for the two Porsches, but a dream come true for Jonathan White in the 22, that BMW. Now he gets to make that BMW as wide as he possibly can until they start to catch some of that traffic, and then hope he can get through. But I really, really do think that BMW is going to be hard to pass here at Oulton Park.
Yeah, and this is going to be an interesting thing because we saw White. He was able to catch up to these guys up in front. Now that he's ahead, especially ahead of Hauseal, who I think White is definitely faster than, can he break away? We'll see if that's going to be the case here now that he's got some clean air.
Look at him, actually. Looks like he's picked up a car length or two since that first corner. incident between the two Porsches.
And some TCRs just up the road. I think that first one is Louis Alessi. Indeed, it is in the 43 machine. He's struggling a little bit here. 11th of the 12 TCRs, or sorry, 11th of the 11 TCRs that actually took the green flag. So not running particularly well in this race. He's going to have to deal with the GT4 traffic now. And this again, they were talking about this track already being tight as it is when you're racing cars in of the same make. And then now looking at the leaders, they got to pass another car here. They got to hope that you really, I think at this track, you just got to hope you catch them in the right place.
Yeah, it really is a roulette, and I think it's also critical to note if you're catching one at a time, that's one thing, but if you catch a group of them at a time, particularly that battle that's raging in TCR for third, that makes it even tougher. Whereas last week in Sebring, you had a lot longer straightaways and a little more time to plan ahead for something like that.
And here we see Jonathan White catching up to Alessi here. Curious to see what Alessi's going to do. If he's going to let these guys on by. He's going to at least let White on by the time they get to the chicane. It looks like Hauseil's going to have to wait in behind. You see him trying to get a decent run out in behind on the exit. Ooh, gets blocked really hard on the exit. Nowhere for Hauseil to go. And now DJ finally going to work his way on through as well. So this is only going to get worse for you guys. You mentioned, I think something happened. I was just going to say there was that battle for third place. Will Robbins involved in that battle? Think something happened to him.
Looks like he got a run on Murphy Nichols, who went wide in the fast right-hander at the end of the back straightaway, comes in alongside, and this is where he dipped a tire before. Does he do it again? It's close. Chucks it in a little too hard, can't get it woed, and there's not a lot of time before you hit something here at Oulton Park. Just noses it into the tires. And it looks like he's going to call it a day. Yeah,
really unfortunate end for his day after was such a promising car. Definitely a top 5 car. Is not going to end it, unfortunately, in the tire barrier. That's going to leave Murphy Nichols and Ryan Kristoff, the Soul Cars, battling for third. But then he's fine. Jack Chrissy finding renewed life yet again. We definitely thought he had enough time to catch this battle for third. Definitely looks like it's going to be the case now. But again, trying to recover after starting on pole, dropping all the way back. These guys are currently 10 seconds back from the leaders in TCR. Elias Roman about a 1.6, almost 2 seconds ahead of David Alessi. There you see Alessi now cresting over the hill. As we go back to the GT4 battle now, battle for second place between Alessandrini and Hauseil. And now DJ, the time's on him. He's got to get past Hauseil and catch White.
Yeah, I do think his car's a little faster. I think he might be taking too many risks at this point with how narrow this track is and what those consequences are. We already saw him get into the back of Hauseil once, and I think I've seen a little more dirt flying from the back bumper, but look at Jonathan White gets held up at the worst possible spot, and now the pendulum swings the other way. It's back to a battle for the lead in GT4. These guys are going to sweep around the outside of the lap TCR traffic. Alessandrini, I think, will barely make it, but Hauseil gets the gift of getting back to the bumper. Jonathan White, who had about a second lead, is now nothing.
Yeah, and again, as you mentioned earlier, it is a roulette wheel. It helped him out a little bit earlier, and then the next car, it hurt him by quite a bit. All that lead gone now. He's got to be careful here. I think they got some clean check. There's one TCR up ahead, but they still got some time to battle it out here. We'll see if Hauseil now can try to capitalize. Again, I'm not sure on Hauseil's pace. I think definitely seems to be the slowest of the three, but he might prove me wrong here.
Yeah, I think pace is one thing, but it's just a matter of how that BMW is able to defend. It's good on the brakes, and it's good at the end of straightaways, which makes it even, easier to protect with and rebound, which is one of the reasons that Hauseil was able to defend so well last week at Sebring. It looks like Chris Lapras had a big incident, a lot of damage on the front end of that number 7, and he's dropped a number of positions.
Yeah, this is a little bit earlier. He was right in behind, I think it was Layton or White. Or sorry, I think it was Layton. Oh, TCR traffic. Yep, hit the TCR car and lazily spun. Oh, and then a hard hit into the tire barrier.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think the TCR car had a little bit of an awkward moment. Looked like he was going to leave the door open, take a ride on board. You'll see the TCR car go wide on the way in and still go for the apex. There he runs wide and then barely gets the grip back. I think that communicates to the driver behind you that you're going to let them go through. And unfortunately, Lapras, assuming that was the case.
And he got short end of the stick again, trying to get past Alessi. Almost rear-ended him here into the Britain chicane. So he's not been having a particularly good time with the TCR traffic, Lapras.
Whoa. Just now gets through as Louis Alessi pulls off the track and then pulls back in. Andrew Pilata is behind there as well, and he's rebounding from that early incident. But back at the front, Jonathan White still controls this race. Hauseil and Alessandrini glued to the back of him. For a little while, Tom Layton was pretty well in the hunt. He's the yellow and blue BMW with the white hood a little further back, but I think he got caught out with some TCR traffic as well, and now he's pretty far back, maybe 7 seconds or so. Sorry, about 4 or 5 seconds at the line.
Yeah, there you can see the gap right there on screen between fourth and the top three, all chasing each other down. Another TCR just up the road. I want to say it's Scott Merker or Dave Fitzgerald. It is Dave Fitzgerald in the 91 car, currently in 8th place. Looks like he's going to pull it off to the left, let these guys in by. He doesn't want to be a factor.
It's good heads-up driving, especially when you're not in a battle. It's always best to try to disappear if you can and be the predictable factor. Dust flies as they sweep through that fast left-hander into the hairpin. Alice Adrini's deep on the brakes, and look at how much entry speed the Porsches can carry relative to the BMW. That's great and all for lap time, but unfortunately, when you got a big BMW parked in front of you, there's not much you can do with that kind of speed. And then, as we watch out the back, watch the BMW just gobble up distance between these two. Right now, it's going to hit its own and just starts to pull away further and further. It's going to be 2-3 car lengths by the time they break for this fast right-hander. And that's the problem that Hausiel and Alessandrini are going to deal with for the last 20 minutes of this race.
Yeah, I was going to say, they can try all they want to get good exits out of the corners, but they can't beat horsepower in some cases, and especially with the BMW, where it's still able to stretch its legs despite the shorter straightaways here at Oulton Park. White trying to, I keep mixing these two guys up, White trying to hold off Hausiel and Alessandrini for that first place spot. We'll see. Definitely thought Leighton was, oh my god, I need like the markers in video games that they have over every single car to keep track of them. White doing the best he can to keep Hausiel in behind, but even now Hausiel looks like his car is slowly starting to come alive here in the middle part of the race.
Yeah, I suspect it's the opposite, where the BMW might be falling off as we are over half distance in this 40-minute race. To be fair, they're kind of asking for it. They're running those team liveries. But either way, it is Jonathan White at the front, Ken Hausiel, Alessandrini, who dropped off the back in the final corner, had a little bit of a hiccup, and now will start to work his way back up. I don't think he'll have any problem getting there. As Jonathan White seems to be the limiting factor on the raw pace between these three. But now they're just catching the back of the majority of the TCR pack. They've been catching one at a time, but look who's up there. That's going to be Darian Taggart and Scott Merker battling. They're going to catch 2 TCRs at a time, and that's a problem.
Yeah, especially when they start battling. We've seen it be a problem last week at Sebring. There was one particular battle where the leaders just got held up quite a bit. Actually, they didn't get held up. They actually managed to muscle their way on through, is I think the best way to put that. But it's going to be a lot harder to do that here. Looks like they're starting to get separated out a little bit more, but there are some tighter battles going up ahead. Again, that battle for third, it lost 1 car. It's now added 1 car as Jack Chrissy has joined the fray with Ryan Christoph and Murphy Nichols for the final spot of the TCR podium. Interested in seeing if this battle is going to remain by the time our leader is going to get there, and if when the overall leaders, the GT4 cars, get here, how that's going to turn out, because I think it might get kind of ugly towards the end of the race.
Yeah, you really have to be really aggressive, a little bit of a bully, if anything, in a GT4 car, trying to get by these TCR cars, and that usually spells bad news in certain instances. We'll knock on wood that doesn't happen tonight, but Murphy Nichols continuing to defend very well from Ryan Christoph. Jack Chrissy's absolutely in this battle at this point, so he's doing a good job trying to make me eat my words and get back in the hunt from this one.
Yeah, still a long ways up from the leaders, but definitely that final spot on the podium is still up for grabs. I think there'll be some consolidation after an early incident in this race. Just showing how much raw speed he had. It is actually not the fastest of the TCRs, but is very close to being it is one of the faster TCRs as far as best lap times, as he's trying to catch up to these guys up ahead entering the Britain chicane. I also want to take a look at where our GT4 leaders are in comparison. So they're in the chicane, and not too far back is our GT4 leaders, and actually DJ losing a lot of time.
Yeah, Alessandrini got caught out by Taggart. 2 of them made it up the inside in turn 3, but Alessandrini didn't quite get there. And now look at the run Hausiel has through the Hislop chicane, gets alongside, flashing the lights is in the background, Alessandrini, but side by side through this right-hander is going to be really tight. Hausiel takes it around the outside, but that slows them both up, and look at the run Alessandrini has. He'll get back there.
And Hausiel is able to drive around White. We'll see if he can try to rebound as they enter into Druids. And then heading down towards the final corner of the lap. That BMW, we might have said it might be falling off just a little bit, but it's still definitely much alive as White. Look at how much he's pulling on this short little straightaway. Not able to quite get alongside. I'm going to make a dive into the final corner. At least try to have a look, but that slowed him up quite a bit. Here comes Alessandrini with a run.
Whoa, sawing at the wheel on the exit was the BMW. He protects to the inside, and Alessandrini will have nowhere to go with this one. Hard on the brakes with 15 minutes to go, and then 15 and a couple seconds, I should say, to go. And I think they're going to catch those battle for third in TCR towards the end of this lap, which means we're going to have 3 cars and 3 cars coming together. But Hausiel starting to pull away a little bit from Jonathan White, who's struggling maybe a little bit in that BMW, holding up Alessandrini, who's still showing the nose in the mirrors all over the place.
Interesting to see the ebb and flow of both types of machinery, one coming alive, one falling off, and the other coming alive in the later goings of this race. Hausiel now, I'm not sure if he's going to quite be able to pull away, but he's definitely going to try, especially as we mentioned that traffic TCR battle for third approaching these guys very quickly, or rather they're approaching it very quickly here as they work through the Britain chicane. We'll take an eye back at that battle, see how it's worked out so far. Murphy Nichols still ahead. This time though, Jack Chrissy, he's up into 4th ahead of Ryan Christoph, so that battle might start to close back in on each other. And then you can see now through the sweeping right-hander, here come our GT4 leaders.
Whoa, Jonathan White using all of the track. Does not look as composed as the leading Porsche of Ken Hausiel. Ken was really nice and tidy through the Hislop chicane as well, and I think at this point White is kind of holding on for dear life, but honestly keeping this BMW in the battle longer than I expected he would. So right there, it's maybe going to be a whole nother lap before they catch that third place battle in TCR. But still, Alessandrini putting on the pressure big time for second place with Hausiel, just kind of hoping these two start to battle each other, because that would be the biggest gift. Let him start to pull away.
Yeah, indeed, we'll see how that's going to play out. He's starting to look a lot more sloppy. They dropped a little bit of a wheel out of turn 1. Curious how these guys are doing incident-wise. I have no idea, have no way of keeping track of that, but as they approach the TCRs, you can see them at the end of the shot there. They're only one straightaway away. I have a feeling that has a chance of getting a little bit higher than incident count.
Yeah, it's always a risk you run, especially if you've run them up a little too early. You don't have as many to use. And a point you made pretty early one night with Kyle interviewing DJ is you almost have them as a consumable to burn if you want to start to use them up later in the race. If you've got them to burn, why not? So it's almost like using up your tires. You have those incident points to burn if you know where you can make up a couple of tenths here and there by dropping tires, starting to flirt those track limits a little bit more. By all means, you're allowed to do that as long as you don't exceed 25 total incident points. You're not really going to get any consequences for that. But Jonathan White rallying this lap and is putting a ton of pressure on Hausiel. This is ebbing and flowing in a way that's a little unpredictable. I'm having a hard time really telling who's got the stronger car between these two, because now White looks like he's come alive.
Yeah, I think it's really a matter of who's heating up the tires, or maybe overheating the tires, pushing them so much. You have to see here as they're working through the final few corners. Now the TCR battle just looming up the road. Not sure who's going to be even in the lead of this battle as you see Hausiel make a mistake out of the final corner. Here comes the run. This is a chance on the straightaway for White to try to rebound. Here they go side by side into turn 1. Who's going to pinch the other? Who's going to give room?
And White's going to go really early on the apex, tries to park Hausiel at the apex itself. Doesn't work out. Hausiel gets the over-under, but now this becomes the outside for turn 3, and that's going to be really tough to pull off. He's made it work once before. Does he get it again? Well, they're still side by side. Hausiel pulls around just a nose. Alessandrini hunting, trying to figure out what to do, and now finally tucks in, does White.
Oh, and it looks like Alessandrini going to take this chance to try to go for second place. Going to throw it up the inside of White. White going to be in the grass, going to clip it just a little bit. Gets a little bit sideways on the back end, but holds on. However, he loses spot. DJ now up into second place. DJ on a late race charge. We'll see if he can do anything with just under 12 minutes to go.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that White ran out of track just by a couple of inches. But now it's back to the way it ran at the start of the race. Hausiel, Alessandrini, White, and it's just before they catch this TCR traffic, so it could still swing any way. And with these guys battling as much as they have, it's taken them longer to catch the TCR cars than we expected. Get this curb hop there, using all the track on the inside and outside, and it's going to be probably coming into the final corner that these guys intercept this three-way battle for third in TCR, which has still not gone anywhere.
No, it's not. They have some decent amount of space, but it still is very tight between those three cars. It's going to take them a little bit of time to work their way on through. They're going to be compromised in some corners, really catching this entire group as one pack in and of themselves. So we'll have to see how they're going to work their way on through. Who's going to come out on top? This is going to be the real big question mark here, as they're pretty much caught them now. You see Hausiel trying to flash the lights to give these guys a little bit of heads up that he's not willing to really slow down. I would imagine he can't really afford to slow down because he's got DJ and White breathing down his neck.
No, it's going to be probably pretty good timing for Halcyon to get a run down the straightaway between these next couple of corners, turns 3 and 4. Gets a good entry here, grabs that curb, and it looks like Kristoff's going to make it relatively easy for him to get by at least one of them. There's a bit of a gap, and then it's a battle between Murphy Nichols and Jack Chrissy. Does DJ get through as well? No, he does not. So he's going to have to wait until after the hairpin probably to get through, and that's going to break up that battle for the lead.
Yeah, and we'll see here if DJ is able to get past Kristoff here out of the hairpin. I think he's going to have to. It looks like he's going to at least get alongside here. It looks like for Halcyon, he can't really afford to make a dive here on Chrissy as he's trying to battle with Murphy Nichols for third spot. And here you see contact there. Chrissy trying to move to the right, maybe try to give lane to Halcyon, if not trying to work on Nichols. Now there you see Halcyon and DJ now working on the outside. TCR's on the inside. GT4's on the outside, almost making contact. That was really close between Nichols and Halcyon.
Yeah, Halcyon turned in like Murphy wasn't there, and Nichols barely stayed out of the back bumper. Now Alessandrini tries the outside, becomes the inside for turn 14-15 here, and White is back in this one. He's right on the back bumper, but unfortunately doesn't clear Murphy Nichols as quickly, and now drops back off. So I think that's pretty much done nothing to the TCR battle and separated the battle for the lead in GT4, as now White finally clears the battle here, and look what that has done. That's brought Tom Layton into this one. The BMW at the back of your shot there is closer than he's been the entire race.
Yeah, also these TCRs are also starting to spread out here, and Layton saying, nope, please get back in line. I want to get my way on through for a shot at the podium. And Layton still struggling to work through that final TCR of Chrissy up ahead, who is, sorry, not Chrissy, Nichols up ahead, who is still able to take away. Now he's working through Chrissy. So Layton not quite able to get through as efficiently I think he would have liked. So mostly staying the same here as it is for the top of the GT4. But man, that was entertaining to watch them work their way on through. We talked about it being tight, very sketchy, and indeed that was.
Yeah, that was frantic for a lap there, and I think that was some false hope for Tom Layton getting that close, but now taking as long as he has to get through the TCRs. It's taken him just as long as the rest of the cars did, so it's not like it's hurt him or slowed him up much. It's just kind of put him back where he was. There are 2 more TCR cars to get through, though, for these GT4 leaders. Don't forget, Elias Roman has run a very quiet first. There he is. David Alessi's not that far behind, maybe a couple of seconds. There he is. And that GT4 lead battle is going to catch each of these guys one at a time.
You're able to see the separation there. I think Halcyon about 12 seconds back from the leader. Elias Roman in TCR. It's been pretty quiet. Ever since the midway point of this race, he's been able to stretch his legs, break away from David Alessi by 6 seconds, that gap for TCR. So we'll see here. It shouldn't be too much of an issue for these guys catching them. It's a late part of the race. I think both those drivers know they're going to be finishing first and second. But you never know. It could be one last thing and might be able to help DJ, who's still trying to find his way to the lead here with under 8 minutes.
Yeah, it could really swing any way because we've seen lap traffic interfere with race wins before. Alessandrini was on the receiving end of one of those, got a punt at Donington and went for a big slide that kept him out of his race win. But Alessandrini's looking fast right now. Look at him close up on the back of Alciel through turn 1. If anything, you know that these drivers are going to start to burn those incident points. You're going to see more dirt flying than ever. Really late apexes for the Porsches coming down through turn 3, and it's probably going to be a whole nother lap before they catch Alessi. So, really, Alessandrini's trying to close that gap before they get there. Jonathan White still is not going anywhere as well.
Yeah, I'm curious here. Do you think White, he's got one last shot of trying to get this? You think he may have something left here in these closing laps?
Yeah, I do, for sure. I don't think that we're going to be able to call this one until they clear the final TCR cars. 7 minutes left to go. I don't actually think they're going to catch the TCR leader, Elias Roman, but they are definitely going to catch David Alessi. And I don't think we can call what's going to happen until they've cleared all of the TCR cars. I think what we've seen, though, is the entire race, there hasn't been much passing without interference of either a mistake or a lap traffic car. So I think if they're kind of running in formation once they've cleared the TCR cars, that's probably how it'll stay.
Also, is going to keep quick tabs. Whoa, I was going to say keep quick tabs because the battle for third and TCR is getting kind of close. But Kristoff out on the track. He's going to lose a lot of time to Nichols, so we'll go back up to the front here. The battle for the overall lead between Ken Alciel, DJ Alessandrini here working through the final few corners. Alessandrini, a great run out of the final corner here, trying to find something on Alciel. Alciel going to go defensive into turn 1.
Yeah, Alessandrini's looking really aggressive, and if anything, he's the driver that's not afraid to pull something out of the hat and see if it works. Has a pretty good track record of making it work as well. Now they finally got to the back of David Alessi. It's going to be really close if they catch him before the fast left-hander at the end of this long straightaway. Looks like real quick in TCR, I think Jack Chrissy might have hit the 25 incident point limit. Look at David Alessi. Let these guys going through. That is really heads up. He knew he wasn't going to catch. He wasn't going to catch Elias Roman, and unfortunately let the 2 leaders through and then kind of screwed John White there. But heads up enough.
Yeah, and White probably not going to be too happy the way that went down, lost even more time. I think that might effectively take him out of the battle for first. Definitely still alive. It might give it, honestly, a shot for White to get back. Remember how White even got the lead in the first place? It was when DJ hit Alceel, punching him out, and they both slowed themselves down. That allowed White to get on through. Who knows? That could happen even in the last 5 minutes here. We'll have to see. Alex Adrini has never been able to get past Alceel this race. I don't think he's actually even led a lap. But here he might have a shot here. He's got a great run here on the back half of the course as they head towards Drudes. Who's going to make the move? It's Alceel going to throw a block.
Yeah, that would have been a Hail Mary for sure up the outside of this double apex right-hander. But I think the faster car is certainly the one we ride on board with, the 61 of Alessandrini, who's got a lot of pressure on Alceel. Alceel's feeling it as he goes defensive down into turn 16. 4.5 minutes now. So that's going to be, 3 more laps maybe at this point in this 5th round of the WDCR Virtual Racing League's Winter 2020 season. I don't know. I still don't know that we can call this one, but What I said 2 laps ago, I think that might be out the window. Alessandrini wants this one bad.
Yeah, it definitely does, and he's going to fight tooth and nail again. 3 laps to go estimated for these drivers here in these closing minutes of the race. There's Elias Roman up ahead. I think they might catch him, so that could be one last obstacle for these drivers up in front of FaZe here. Could throw this on his head, could give DJ the trump card he needs to try to usurp the lead from Alceel up in front, who's been doing a very solid job of keeping everyone in behind for the most part. I also just want to double check too. Alceel, no laps led so far this race.
So the fastest lap for Elias Roman last time through, he's been running right about the mid 39s, high 39s. The leaders of this race are running something like a 137, and the gap between them right now is not very much. So if they catch them, it's going to be pretty much on the last lap. So Roman, depends on how aggressive he wants to keep these guys behind him. If anything, he might be able to realize that he's got no challenge and let them by, just like David Alessi did. But look at the lights flashing already coming up on him.
Yeah, I think Alceel wants him to get out of the way and get out quickly because he knows that, again, he's not really battling for anything. He's got a pretty massive gap, pretty sizable gap back to David Alessi, 7.8 seconds. So I think Alceel's like, please move out of the way as quickly and efficiently as possible. Here we see on the straightaway here heading towards turn 1. So far, Elias, he's not moving, he's not budging, and here they come through turn 1. Is Alceel going to be impeded? Not quite just yet, but definitely in turn 3. But Elias, he's going to pull over and get on the brakes. So leaders going to work their way on by. No interference.
Yeah, that's good heads-up driving from Elias Roman, and just pretty experienced across these championships at this point to see that one coming from a mile away. Does he do the same for Jonathan White, who didn't necessarily get the same courtesy last time through? Yeah, it makes it easy enough. This battle for the lead now is completely unimpeded for the last 2.5 minutes of this race. One more lap, I think white flag next time through, and Alceel controls it so far. Has no wins this season on 5 races. He's led some at every single point this season, but still no wins. Alessandrini behind has 4 of 5 races won, and he wants to keep that record going. So I think both of these drivers feel a lot of pressure to get it done tonight.
Yeah, we'll see that pressure's going to mount. I think both these drivers are held their nerves pretty good so far, but I think those nerves definitely going to mount here as they're approaching. Got a lap and a half left to go in this race as they work now towards Druids. This is where we saw Alessandrini mount a really sizable charge. Got a great run up the hill and was able to almost make a move on Alceel into these corners. Now Alessandrini, this next lap, he's got to drive pretty much flawlessly if he wants to have a shot. Looking through the final few corners now into the final corner. They will come out. They will, I don't think they'll quite see the white flag, but they might as well so. Ooh, as Alessandrini talking about driving flawlessly, not off to a good start. Got some grass. That hurt his momentum.
White flag in the air. Ken Alceel leads the way over DJ Alessandrini. Jonathan White still lurking in the background, and then it's a big gap back to Leighton and Larose. Looks like Larose is somewhat closed up to the back of Leighton, but I don't think that battle is going to go anywhere at this point. The big question mark is whether or not that 61 Porsche with the orange nose, DJ Alessandrini, can he find a way around on raw speed, or is Will Robbins in that TCR lap traffic going to come into play? We didn't expect to see more lap traffic, but it may.
He definitely may be a factor here, riding on board with Alessandrini, definitely pushing the issue here. He's trying to extract every ounce of the car. Look at him diving very deep into the hairpin, trying to close that gap up to Hausile. I think he's essentially got one or two opportunities in the back half of the court. This entire first part of the lap just setting up, closing that gap to Hausile. Gets a pretty decent run out of the chicane, I would think, as they come on through. Might not be close enough. We'll have to see. There's also, again, that lap car, Will Robbins. Is he going to be a factor? Is he going to be willing to even get out of the way? We'll see. Here it's going to be very tight. Hausile's coach is hoping he does stay out of the way, but I think they might catch him by the final corner.
Well, and Alessandrini got a really good run through the right-hander off that back straightaway. He's closed up to about a car length off the back bumper. I think they're just going to barely be clear of this Will Robbins lap traffic, so probably no interference here. I'm going to call it now. One more corner, one more braking zone to get it done. The 61 is not quite there. Hausile gets a great run through the final sector of this track and is on the brakes, gets a clean exit.
Yeah, and for Ken Hausile, he comes up and over the hill and across the finish line for his first win of the season. Fantastic drive from the 23 to hold up DJ Alessandrini and Jonathan Nuelos. A fantastic battle from that trio for the top three. All those drivers deserving their spots on the podium, and also in the background as well, Elias Roman coming for his win. A really solid drive for him. Got what he probably what he didn't get at Sebring. I think he's going to be definitely happy with that. David Alessi finishing in second in TCR with Murphy Nichols. A solid drive for him to just keep ahead of Ryan Christoph as they come across the line for third place.
Yeah, make that 3 wins on the season for Elias Roman. Back to form, and a really strong run for Murphy Nichols, fending off pressure from multiple different drivers at different stages of this race, between Christoph, Robbins, and Chrissy, and gets his first podium of the season there in the silver number 5.
Yeah, then also again your race winner here, Ken Hausile. Great job for him. Going to take a nice victory lap, soak it all in, as he was able to finally be ahead of DJ in this race, and did a fantastic job keeping him at bay here. And we'll go through your finishing results. Ken Hausile up on top, DJ Alessandrini, Jonathan White, your top 3 as mentioned. Layden, very quiet day for him, back in 4th place. Not a whole lot to speak of for him. Very solid drive nonetheless. Alex Larose was able to pass lappers after lappers, suffered some damage early on. He dropped all the way back to 6th place. Richard Spicer in 7th with the rest of the grid rounding out your GT4 field. I didn't want to pull that away. I wanted to pull that and go to the TCR field. And looking at your top 3 there, as mentioned, Ryan Christoph in 4th, Scott Merker in 5th. And didn't get a chance to mention it, but I saw Chrissy, he was in the pits for 2.5 minutes, so I'm not sure if he got damaged or if that was a penalty he was serving or just wanted to retire the car. Finished all the way back in 10th after a very promising day. With that, we'll take a little bit of a break here and we'll grab some driver's interviews, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And welcome back live here with Murphy Nichols, your third place finisher in TCR. And man, you had a really solid drive. You've ended up finishing in third place, but I definitely don't think it was an easy one for you. Every time we saw you out on track, you're trying to hold off some driver or the other in fourth place, but you managed to rally that car and put it in a very solid place on the third step of the podium. Walks through your day.
Yeah, I gotta say, this was easily one of the hardest races I've ever done. Like, at first, I had to hold off Will, but I still feel bad that he hit the barrier. I'm sorry if I seem like I'm out of breath. My heart is just racing after that run. And then I know Ryan, he did not leave my mirror throughout that entire 40 minutes, and I was like, I need to hold him off. I need to hold him off. And then even though I'm in the process of holding him off and putting on laps, I see Jack slowly starting to push back up, and it felt like like you said, every time I was like, well, just the entire 40 minutes, it was somebody was there and I had to focus on them and focus on keeping my car on track.
Yeah, and especially keep it on track. And also, you saw the Gt4 battle. They were approaching you guys in your mirrors. So, what was your plan? Because you were pretty much in the thick of that. So, what was your plan to kind of work your way on through that entire ordeal?
So I was really hoping that I don't know what corner number it is, but the really like tight kink. I was really hoping that Ken and DJ were either going to get us before or after that, but I got stuck right in the middle. So Ken and I somehow went too wide through that corner and just made it work. And then DJ and Jonathan followed up closely behind, and still just keeping Ryan in my mirrors, and thank God he kind of got held up as well, and I was able to keep my ground from him.
Yeah, well, you're able to do it. A really solid job, really solid drive for you, Murphy. Congrats on your first podium of the season. Hopefully more to come, especially as we head next week to Suzuka. Or not Suzuka, sorry, Suzuka. Wrong Japanese circuit.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. Podium 1 is done. Here's to many more.
Yeah, indeed. Congrats. And moving on to second place finisher in TCR, you have David Alessi. And David, really solid drive from you. Pretty much continued your battle last week from Sebring with Elias Roman. It was your fourth podium in a row as well.
Yeah, thanks. The beginning of the race started out good. Unfortunately for Jack, he had a little bit of it off, which bumped me and Elias up a bit. And then sitting there with Elias, it's a tough track to follow nose to tail on. I was right behind him at points, right on his bumper. Realized I couldn't see a thing around him. Tried to back it off just a hair. Ended up making a mistake, which dropped me back a little bit. And then trying to push to catch back up just wasn't the answer. It was costing me more time. By the time I kind of got back into my rhythm, I wasn't able to reel him in. Had a mistake here, mistake there. But overall, I'm happy with it. Good second place.
Yeah, and with your close battle, it seems like you and Elias have been having a really close battle. Looking at Suzuka, do you think that might be a track where maybe you can find yourself not only just ahead of Elias, but also on top stop of the podium?
We'll see. I don't even own Suzuka, so I haven't turned a lap there.
Oh.
It's time to start practicing. I mean, I know the track. I know where it goes. But I'm going to have to put in some laps and see what I can come up with.
Well, definitely looking forward to seeing you perform there, David. Thanks for talking to us. And
Thanks, guys.
Yep, and no problem. And moving on to our TCR winner of the day, Elias Roman. Elias, you're disappointed at your performance. How last week went for you at Sebring, but this time went for you pretty well. The top step of the podium, a win for you.
I miss you, man. Good to be you back on the booth along with Tambo. Yeah, disappointed last week to say the least. And I won't lie, I kind of drove angry today and kind of wanted to redeem myself after a lackluster performance last week. I had a great battle with Jack in the beginning. He kind of just ran wide, which gave me the lead, and then it was basically qualifying laps that I won't lie. I'm actually surprised at my pace because I was procrastinating all week that I hated this track. I hated how the car felt, and I almost missed out this week and wanted to make Coquito instead, but kind of glad I showed up instead.
Yeah, definitely glad he showed up. It was a really good drive, really good battle with you and David early on in the going. I also wanted to ask you because I asked David LSC. It seems like you guys are. I'm not sure if you've been having a rivalry, but definitely the 2 races I've been commentating for. Seems like you guys have a bit of a rivalry. You're both very close on pace. Curious on your thoughts of Suzuka next week.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Suzuka. Obviously not in iRacing, but in Gran Turismo and other racing platforms, so I have a good feel for it. Just kind of need to just set up the car to my liking, and yeah, hopefully for another top step at the podium. I'm sure Casera will be back. He's probably out on holiday or something, but I'm sure it'll be me, him, and Alessi back at scrapping it up front.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing that. Thanks for talking to us, Elias. All right, moving now to talk to Jonathan White, our third place finisher in the Gt4 battle, and you guys are all together like glue the entire race. In fact, Jonathan, you were in the lead for quite a bit of it. Unfortunately, didn't turn out that way by the end of it.
No, I mean, I thought that I definitely could have won the race because after getting by both Ken and DJ after that skirmish going into T1, I pulled a pretty reasonable gap, but it seemed like the entire race of T-Stars didn't want to agree with me. I got held up with them by like probably 3 or 4 times or something, and at the end, I guess the T-Stars reduced the gap down enough that Ken and DJ could get by me, and yeah, at the end when they got by me, my tires just fell off, and that was really it.
Yeah, looking back at your race as a whole, do you think, maybe there's anything you could have done differently to try to either keep yourself up in the front, or something you could have done differently to get the win?
I mean, I want to say probably timing the passes on the TCR cars, but I can't really see how I timed that. I mean, I could have maybe slowed down a bit on some straights before coming into like the chicane, maybe to try and pass them on the straight afterwards of the exit instead of getting held up in the chicane or something. But the course is so tight, and I didn't have much of a gap, so I didn't really have much wiggle room to play with that. Aside from that, I ran a pretty good race, I think. I had pretty good pace. Same with DJ and Ken, so that was I mean, I'm drenched. That was a hell of a battle.
Not surprised that you were. It looked exhausting just from us in the booth, just watching you guys just slug it out.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't the win for you, but congrats on your first podium. Hopefully more to come.
Hopefully. See you guys.
See you, John. And moving next, we have our second place finisher. It's a very unfamiliar thing to say for DJ Alessandrini, since he normally races in such a dominating fashion, but DJ, you've not been able to break away from Ken. Last week, you were able to pass him. Unfortunately, not this week.
That was a wild race. That was a lot of fun, and the dynamic between all these cars and somebody's gonna give me crap about this because I've always said I hate mixed class racing, but just the dynamic between like the out of class cars and the GT4 cars and the way they play together is just a really good time. And I think I was the third fastest car tonight, and if I could have pulled out a win being slower than Ken and John, I would have been over the moon. Just because I think that's always like a high achievement, is if you can win a race not being the fastest, you're doing something right, because you can't always be the fastest guy on track. It helps when you are, but it's not going to happen all the time. And I thought I had a real shot at it. It's just it didn't go quite my way. Just a couple one too many mistakes at the end kept me from springing my trap I had for Ken. Maybe he'll see it someday in the future, and that race might have went a little different. But overall, I had a ton of fun, and congrats to Ken. He was definitely the fastest one tonight.
Yeah, but I definitely also want to ask you, Gigi, especially in such dominating fashion, you won 66% of the races this season so far. So looking forward to Suzuka, which is the next race up ahead. I think you might be able to get your 5th one.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'll have a bunch of time tomorrow. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way, everyone. And over the weekend to put in some laps and really dial in how I'm going to drive Suzuka. I don't have a whole lot of experience on that track, but I'm guessing that everybody else in this league is in the same boat. So it should be a real interesting race next week. And the couple races I have done on Suzuka, it's always been a lot of fun, and it's a little bit, Suzuka's a little bit more deadly than you think it would be. It has a lot of runoff, but some of those curbs might chuck your car into the wall because they don't like you.
We'll definitely see if that is the case. But DJ, congrats on a really solid drive for 2nd place.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
And moving on, last but certainly not least, Ken O'Seal on the top step of the podium and his first win of the season. Ken, you definitely drove your butt out this race, trying to keep both Jonathan White and DJ Alessandrini in behind you. Walk us through how it went for you.
Yeah, that was wild. The start of the race was, man, I was not expecting the green flag right away and got surprised by that, so I had to defend right away. And then I'm not sure what happened behind, but I had a gap, and that went away. Everybody caught up, and then people passed me, and it's just wild. And then the interactions with the TCR cars, they were all pretty good. It's just you're going to get held up no matter what. So
yeah, I was just curious to hear from you. After you and DJ made contact in turn one, Jonathan was able to get his way on through to the lead. How did your mind switch, or did your mindset, the way you approached this race, switch after, instead of being in front for the lead, being back in behind?
I knew it was going to be really, really difficult to get past the BMW just about anywhere because it has so high straight line speed, but it was honestly not all that different. Just drive, try to hit my marks, and the biggest concern then was the incident points. I finished the race with 22 incident points, just dropping wheels here and there, and the contact from DJ, and then I rear-ended Jack Chrissy out of the chicane the one lap, so it's like, man, that was really stressful, just trying to drive really clean for the last 10 laps of the race.
Yeah, well, you're able to pull it off, and more importantly, able to get a win out of it, Ken. Great win for you. Also looking to see if you can maybe pull it off again back-to-back at Suzuka next week.
Yeah, I really like Suzuka, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, indeed we will. Thanks for talking to us, Ken.
Thanks, guys. Take it easy.
And with that, it's going to wrap up interviews for this week. Another fantastic race. I've been putting on a heck of a show. I'm going to feel kind of bad leaving the booth for this. Cal will be returning back as the lead commentator with Tom O'Gorman for the rest of the series. But it's been fun doing these two races. Really, really entertaining stuff.
Yeah, it's been a ton of fun. This whole season's been some of the best sim racing we've ever seen, I think, anywhere, which is the same as real racing. You know, real drivers in fake race cars drives the same as real racing. So I'm glad that people have been tuning in to watch. It's been a lot of fun, and I think we're, again, kind of into the unknown part of the season, moving from this Oulton Park round, which is a little bit less of a traditional track than this WDCR group would race, onto Suzuka, which is another one that's a little less traditional, and finally Monza before we come home to Summit Point for a 1.2-hour endurance race to finish the thing off just before Christmas. So I don't think that we can predict what's going to happen for the rest of the season until we get back to Summit Point, back on home ground, and I think bigger fields as well.
Yeah, I think Suzuka is going to be the biggest wild card, as a few of the drivers we interviewed tonight mentioned they were not experienced, one not even owning the track, at least in iRacing. So we'll see how it's going to play out. Definitely some interesting racing. Going to try my best to keep tabs on the rest of the season, considering how entertaining it's been. But for now, we'll be signing out. Finney Nakuna, Tom O'Gorman here at Sim TV will be signing out for tonight. Thank you for watching.